Hello and welcome to the Healing Insight podcast, episode 43, with me, Sarah Hunt.
And me, Jez Hunt.
Hello, everybody. Here we are again. Hi, Jay. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes, we are here again for another exciting episode of Who Knows Whatness.
We do a lot of who knows whatness, don't we? Yeah, I like that. Who knows whatness?
It's always a good place to start.
English language.
Sorry?
We're just changing the English language.
Yeah, well.
Why not? Why not? So today, curiosity.
Yeah.
An interesting subject to talk about. Curiosity. Curiosity killed the cat. A good old saying, isn't it? So my age, probably.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because we need to be curious. You know, that's if you look at any discovery, anything that's happened, then at some point somebody got curious about it. Yeah. So, for example, electricity, light bulbs, something that we take for granted. At some point in the past, someone was curious about how they could harness this thing called electricity and produce light from it, for example, or whatever variant. You know, we have an innate sense of curiosity about things. It's something that we should do and can do. There is a danger that we can do it in the wrong way or for the wrong reasons. So,
explain.
Okay. So, for example, when we are to start off with, we should be curious about ourselves. We should be on a journey of self-discovery. Well, we are on a journey of self-discovery, whether we realize it or not.
Yeah.
But, you know, part of that is to be curious, you know. So, for example, if something triggers me and makes me, and I feel anger towards somebody or a situation that's happened. So I'm driving along the motorway, somebody cuts me up and I get triggered with anger, then there could be an element of curiosity of, oh, that's interesting. Why did that trigger me? So it's an indicator.
Yeah.
That something's going on, that's something I might need to address, to do with anger or to do with cars cutting me up or whatever. So there should be that, and can be that element of curiosity that is self-serving. And we talked about self-serving and the difference between self-serving and selfless previously in a couple of episodes ago. But it's self-serving. It's helping me to look at myself and look at the things that are not necessarily serving me and not necessarily helping me move forwards in a positive way. So they're things that I can then address. So curiosity in that sense is a good thing. Mm-hmm. Curiosity can also be a bad thing in that, depending what it is you're being curious about. So for example, if someone is acting towards you in a way, maybe I'm disagreeing with myself here, in a way that triggers you, then you can go into the curiosity of, okay, what is it that I need to deal with? But you can also start going down the route of, oh, well, why are they doing that to me? And although that you might categorize it as curiosity, why someone else is doing something to you is actually irrelevant, because that's down to their stuff and where they are and what's going on for them, not what's actually happening for you. And we can go down that what if, well, why are they doing this? Well, what if it's that? What if they're thinking this? What if they're doing that? What if they're doing this? What if that's happening? What if that's going on in their life? So yes, it could be helpful because it gives you that broader awareness of actually you have no idea what's going on in their life. So maybe just take things at face value, maybe just take it as it is and look at the things that you can change within yourself or around yourself to make you a better person or to deal with that particular issue yourself. But we can then go down, funnily enough, we talked about drama triangle in the last episode. We can then kind of go down that persecutor route of coming up with all these possibilities of why they acted in that way that isn't actually serving us, because we'll never understand why they did it. I say never
because we're not
understand.
them and we've not had their journey.
Because we've not had them. And even if we ask them, they're only ever going to tell us what they feel they want to tell us. They won't necessarily tell us the truth.
Yeah.
They'll tell us, because they might tell us, oh, well, I'm not going to tell you the real reason I did that because it will really hurt you and really upset you. So I'm going to give you a watered down version because I don't want to be like, they wouldn't tell you this, but this might be what they're thinking. So they're only going to tell you what they want to tell you. They won't necessarily tell you what actually was the trigger for them to cause them to do that to you in the first place. So where I'm going with this is putting your curiosity and why did that happen, but use it in the right way that's going to move you forward, that's going to be self-serving and help you find your, to your highest good, rather than pursuing something that may not even be relevant to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. It does make sense. So do you think that's where curiosity killed the cat came from? But that saying is just, it's bugging me for some reason. So there's something about it that maybe we need to look at.
Well, what I'm going to do quickly, so talk amongst yourself, Sarah.
You're going to look up curiosity killed the cat. I think that comes back to being nosy, doesn't it? And there's a difference between being curious and wanting to understand something and being downright nosy.
So
I think that's where it comes from.
Curiosity Killed the Cat was used to warn of the dangers of unnecessary investigation or experimentation. It also implies that being curious can sometimes lead to danger or misfortune. I think that's about the only thing in terms of... Yeah,
Which
I don't think there's anything else. Sorry.
It kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because you could be in a situation where you're curious about things and how they work, for example. So, but you might not have the skills to actually sort out the issue.
But you could have a glass of liquid on the table. You have no idea what it is. So, let's try drinking that, and it could be poison. It could be lethal.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
So, it's so yeah. So in terms of where I was coming from, now that we've looked this up, then is the curiosity, is the questioning of the other person's actions, is it necessary? Is it actually going to help you? If you pursue that line of questioning or thought or trying to understand, is that actually going to make any difference to the outcome or the way that you're going to act or behave because of it? Or is it just worry, and you're worrying about something that is actually completely irrelevant to you, and it's taking you away from where you should be looking, and the curiosity of, okay, why am I reacting like that? Why am I curious about that? Why is this bothering me? Why, curiosity killed the cat. It's coming to my mind and it's worrying me. It's bothering me. It's so looking that up online is not going to harm me in any way. And actually for the purposes of this podcast, then it was to me, it was a logical thing to do, to look and see. Let's investigate it and see what it actually says. But there are times when we can find that we're going down that route of trying to understand something or trying to find the answer to something that actually doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's easy, isn't it, sometimes to end up in a situation where we're overthinking things.
Yeah.
We end up in our heads rather than in our hearts and feeling things. Do I need to investigate this further? Does that feel right to me? Or do I just need to leave it, because actually that's their stuff, not mine. And it's like you say, it's not relevant to what's actually happened to me in that moment.
But if we go back to the last episode where we were talking about the drama triangle, so if we're in victim mode and we find that we're in victim mode a lot and that it's happening a lot, where, if we notice that everyone seems to be against us, everyone seems to be putting us down, then to me, that would spark some curiosity of, well, hang on a minute. Is everyone having this life that everyone's getting victimized, or is it just me? And if it's just me, then why is it just me? So that sort of thing should be sparking curiosity in ourselves of, okay, so is it me? Is there something I can do about it? Is this a pattern that I can change? Is this something I can shift? Is this what life is for me? That would drive me to look for, to be curious about why that sort of thing's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So, it can be used it absolutely can be a positive thing to help us move forwards. It's when we're doing it in a non-helpful way that it's not necessarily serving us.
yeah. It's yeah, it's really important to make sure that we are being curious for the right reasons, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's lots of circumstances we can be curious in, but I think being curious about ourselves, being curious about why we've reacted in a certain way, being curious about what's triggered that, what's made us behave in that way, is an important part of really coming to understand ourselves better.
Yeah.
And during this journey of life, there's an awful lot of opportunity for us to investigate and come to a greater understanding of ourselves and what's important for us, and what our true values are, and therefore how we want to shape our own lives to meet those values, to keep us in that place of happiness and love and joy, with everything that's going on around us.
Yeah. And asking why and asking ourselves questions, asking other people questions even. That's how we learn. That's how we progress. If we just sat down and accepted everything that everybody told us, and just without even questioning it, think of for those of you that have had children or have children, young children, you get when they get to that sort of toddler age and beyond. Why? Why, Daddy? Why? Well, because the sky's blue. Yeah, why? Well, the sky's blue because, yeah, but why? Yeah, but why?
I
Why?
had a daughter that was like that. I used to get to a point where it was because Y's got a curly tail, because I run out of
But that innate,
answers.
but that innate curiosity is how we learn.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And we want children to be curious, don't we? And be asking questions, because then they will bring that into their lives as they get older and start questioning why things are happening, what's going on here, what's happening with me, why am I feeling like this? And it's an important skill for children to learn, as well as for adults to be more aware of, and looking at positive ways of actually making use of that skill.
Yeah. What happens if I press this red ring on this oven?
Ouch, it hurts.
So it's part of what we do as children, but then we start. We can, if we're not careful, we can actually start to lose it. We can start to lose the curiosity about ourselves and our place in the world, or our place in life, and just start to accept, well, or to take the route of, well, that's just how life is. That's just what it is. Rather than, okay, well, if that's what life is and that's what's happening to me externally, what can I do about it? How can I change it internally? What can I do to change my mindset that might change the situation, to change my environment that might change the situation? And maybe it's nothing more than acceptance. But if we don't go down the curiosity route of, is this right for me? Do I feel this is right? Am I just accepting this because someone's told me that that's what's got to happen? Or do I actually feel that this is okay? You
Mm.
know, if we don't go down that route, then we can very quickly become very dissatisfied with life. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm thinking back to, you know, people I know where it's kind of like, well, this is what life is. It's crap, not good. Maybe I have to change those for the recording. But it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. It's just they're not curious enough about themselves and why it's like that to actually move them forward or drive themselves forwards out of that way of thinking, out of that mindset.
Mm.
So being curious, trying different things within reason. I mean, you know, oh, what happens if I walk along the middle of a motorway at night in dark clothing? That's probably not going to be a good
Not
thing.
a wise thing to
Not
do.
a wise thing to do. So I think, you know, there are things that we wouldn't do necessarily. But just being curious about why we react to things, why we respond to things, why some people trigger us and others don't, why, and just observing what's going on and, okay, what can I do to influence that? What can I do to change that? You
Yeah.
know, when Edison, well, the stories that I've heard, because I wasn't around at his time, so I don't know, but when he was developing the light bulb and allegedly did 10,000 versions of the light bulb before he found the one that worked, he didn't just give up because it didn't work. Okay, why didn't that work? What can I try next? Okay, let's try this. No, that didn't work. What can I try next? Let's try this. That is an innate sense of curiosity. He had this vision. He knew that it could be solved at some level,
Mm.
but he was then persistent and consistent and curious as to why it wasn't working enough to then pursue it as a journey to find a solution. And yet he could quite easily have turned around and just said, oh, it didn't work. Oh, well. And we
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily.
And
No, I mean, someone else might have invented it. So it doesn't mean that it would never have happened, but it could have been very different.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's an important skill, isn't it? Curiosity. It can lead us to all sorts of discoveries, positive discoveries, that are important for ourselves and maybe important for others as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, could be something that changes life for humanity at one extreme, or it could just be something about making you a more tolerant, better person in a particular situation. But either way, it's moving you forwards.
Yes.
You know, any. So I suppose really where it comes for me is don't necessarily just accept things as they appear to you. So yeah, take it at face value for what it is, but then is that really what you feel? And is there something more that you could look at? But do it in a constructive way, not in a way that's not actually going to move you forwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen with your heart as
Yeah.
well. Listen with your heart. Does it feel, does it resonate with me? Does this feel right? Do I need to investigate this a bit further? Do I need to be curious and just do a little bit of digging around the subject to try and understand it better? Or is it something that I don't need to get involved with? But I think it's always, to me, it always comes back to, does this feel right? Should I be doing this? Does this feel right for me? So that you do things in a positive, constructive way, and can look at things from a positive point of view and see see a way forward of making the changes that you need to make things better.
Yeah.
To be your best self.
To be your best self, indeed.
And we always want to be our best self in every moment. We want to be our best self. So and my best self yesterday is different to my best self today because things have changed, and I may have put different things into place that have allowed me to create my new best self, but we're always looking to be our best self.
Yeah. I think the key, probably one of the most profound things from this is something we've mentioned multiple times, is trust your intuition.
Yeah.
You know, if something feels wrong, chances are it is. If chance wrong for you, not necessarily wrong for the world, but you know, if something doesn't feel right to you, chances are it's not right
for you.
For you.
Yeah.
So, you know, trust that, and then get curious. So, okay, it doesn't feel right for me. So why doesn't it? Then go down that curiosity, you know, explore it, work out why it doesn't feel right for you. And if you go from your intuition or your, you know, what you being heart led, if you go from that place rather than just being, then you're not then necessarily going to go down a route that's not going to serve you, because you're following that doesn't feel right. So why do I think it's right? Let's look at that. That's going to serve you. That's going to move you forwards.
Yeah.
Because the feeling, you then get the conscious understanding of why the feeling was there if you go looking for the answers, rather than just accepting, well, that's what my heart says, so I'm not even going to bother looking at it. I'm just going to accept that that's what my heart says and go for it. That's okay. But as people, we quite often need to understand. We need to have that level of, so why am I doing that?
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it comes down to just needing acceptance, doesn't it? And understanding it, I'm pointing at my chest, but understanding it in your heart.
Yes.
Without needing to understand it in your head.
Yes.
And I've been guilty of that in the past, definitely, where because I have had this tendency to pull things apart and to the point of being analytical rather than curious.
Yes.
So I've taken it that step too far. Whereas when you're curious, you're not pulling it to pieces in quite the same way, are you? You're looking at, why is this happening? What's it? And rather than pulling it apart and saying, well, that was her fault and that's her fault, and oh, maybe that was me, but you're not dissecting it in quite the same way. You're getting a more generalized viewpoint, perhaps, of what's going on, and therefore what you might need to address. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if you're in a situation where you're at conflict with somebody, and at the end of the day, all you really need to understand is that you both have a part to play in that conflict, and that there is something that you will have done that has triggered that person into behaving the way that they did, and the way that they behave towards you will have triggered something in you that caused you to behave the way you did. You don't necessarily need to go down the whole route of trying to understand to the nth degree what's gone on. You can then go into that situation from a place of, okay, we're both at fault here, or we're not both at fault. We both have a part to play in this. So how can I move this forwards to improve myself that will also serve me, but not to the detriment of the other, when we're going back to what we talked about in previous podcasts. So it's getting that balance of, I feel this is wrong, so something needs to be addressed here. I need to get conscious awareness of what I need to address, but without going too analytical and down that route of trying to find out to the nth degree what happened and why it happened. And so we're We're not like police at a crime scene going around all the witnesses trying to get to the degree of what's gone on and what's happened and trying to build this picture. We're just trying to get an overview of, okay, that's what's happened. That's it from my point of view. What do I need to do to move this forwards?
Yeah.
That's going to serve me, but not to the detriment of someone else. It won't necessarily solve the problem for the other person, but it won't be to their detriment.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting subject, isn't it?
Curious, isn't it?
Mm. Curiouser and curiouser. Yeah. Yeah, it just makes you kind of stop and think,
But not too much.
but not too much. Okay.
I don't think there's
Another.
anything else to add to that, really.
No, no, I don't think so either at this point. Thank you for your
No,
time.
thank you.
An interesting discussion again. Hopefully that will make listeners stop and think
Curious.
about it a little bit and be curious. Yeah, absolutely. So, thank you. All right then. Until next time, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.